Hi everyone and welcome back to Rachel's Enchanting Cakes. I'm going to be making a very large castle cake using this Wilton Castle Cake turret set. In this short tutorial I'm going to be showing you how easy it is to cover the turrets, the roof and the windows. This is just a short introduction into the much larger tutorial that will be coming to this channel very soon, where we piece all of this together. As always, everything you need to know in a simple step-by-step format. Let's make a start. Okay, so in this Wilton set you'll get 12 turrets in total, at 3 different sizes. This is the smallest size, just to give you an idea of just how easy they are to actually cover. Perfect if you are a beginner baker wanting to make your children's birthday cake just that extra bit special. To speed things up, I am using this Brick Effect impression mat by Katie Sue. However, you do not need one of these and you can simply use a cocktail stick, but it will take a lot longer. The reason this is excellent for a beginner baker is 2 things actually. First of all, I'm using a panelling technique, so you don't have to be fantastic with fondant. And because of all of the details that we're going to be having on the actual turrets in regards to the bricks, it doesn't really matter if you make a mistake. So as you can see, all I did was place some icing sugar on my embossing mat, and then I've simply added some fondant. Remember, you do not need one of these mats. You would simply cut out a square piece of plain fondant, add it to the turret, and then use a cocktail stick to place indentations on as though they were bricks. So there are other ways and you don't need all of this equipment. So whether you've used a mat or not, this could just be plain fondant as already mentioned. We now need to make sure there is a hole directly in the centre, because we're going to be covering the top of the turret first, upside down. So for this I just used a piping nozzle. You could use a circle cutter and simply cut a hole directly in the middle. Simply apply some cooled down boiled water to the top of the actual turret. Take your piece of fondant, whether it's already got the effect on or whether it's plain, and place directly over the top. Using a circle cutter, I then use this to cut off the excess fondant before turning this the other way round and pushing in where those indentations are on the actual turret. This will just give me an idea of where I actually need to cut with my very sharp knife, and you just go around and cut off all of the excess. Okay, so this is where we are now. Now please remember, if you don't have one of these mats, that would be completely plain fondant, and then you would just go over it with a cocktail stick before adding this second piece. So I've just replicated what we did at the beginning. I've used my impression mat. I've cut off a simple panel. I'm using some cooled down boiled water again, and then I simply wrap this around the turret and I cut off any excess. I then simply repeated that for the base, again cutting off any excess, and you want to do this for all of the turrets that you're going to need for your sized cake. Okay, so before we go any further, you may have noticed on some of the footage that even though my turrets are grey, some of them are slightly darker, and it also has a little bit of edible sparkle to it. Now I've used a silver sparkle edible luster dust and a slightly darker grey luster dust. Now you don't need these aren't essential. You can see it's really effective just like this, but if you do have them or you want to invest in them, they go an awful long way. You just use a dry brush and just randomly brush over the turrets. You can't go wrong with this. Remember, the bricks. The edible luster dust, however, it gives it that beautiful sparkle. So it's a silver luster dust that I am using, and it is perfect for any Wilton Castle cake if you're doing it in any type of colour. So then I simply go over this with that and repeat that for all of the turrets. Okay then, so for the windows, now the set does actually come with some plastic windows that you can place directly into the cake, but personally I think these might be quite difficult to cover and work with. So instead I used it like an embossing mat. I simply rolled out the colour of my choice, as you can see here, pushed the window directly into it, and then simply cut this out. I just repeat this for all of the windows, both for the cake and for the actual turrets. I then glue each one of these directly to the turrets before painting those indentations with some black edible paint, and finally adding some lovely edible pearls. Now if you don't have any black edible paint, you do not need to do this. It's still got that indentation in there and it still looks beautiful, and that's the same with the edible pearls. Just work with what you have in your kitchen. Now the tops of each turret actually come separately, but they are so easy to cover. So again, cool down boiled water, but this time for the tiles, small circles in the colour of your choice. So I'm using a lovely purple, the same colour as the windows, and a pink, and you just apply them directly to the turret like you can see here. Obviously you cut off the excess just underneath, but then just alternate each colour and gently work your way to the top. Repeat this for all of the turrets, and this is just how effective they actually look once they are completed. I just left these to one side to dry. Once the fondant has gone lovely and hard, it's much more difficult to damage. I'm now going to show you how to do the roof, but I just wanted you to see how effective these look. So they just slot together. I'm going to be doing something in the main tutorial coming very soon to make them more supported on the cake. But for now, let's decorate the roof. Okay, so this is the part that's going to be going on top of my first tier, bang in front of the second tier. And I'm going to show you just how easy it is to actually cover. Now again, I'm going to be using my embossing mat. However, you can just use a cocktail stick. So as you can see here, I've already used the embossing mat on some fondant. Don't worry about all those breakages that you can see in between each brick, because we've got to really push this down and then cut off any excess fondant. But we can always use a cocktail stick and go over certain lines, and it'll all blend together, and because there's so much detail on there, you're not actually going to notice anything. So this is how I've chosen to cover the front. Covering the roof on this is super easy. So I'm using a piping nozzle because it's a slightly larger circle, and first I'm following the guides along the front of the roof, just working my way from the bottom all of the way to the top. I then turn it to one side and I repeat that tile technique that we've done with the turrets, but I'm choosing to just do this in one colour. It'll just keep it more simple due to the shape. Finally, you want to then cover the top. It's as simple as that. Now remember, I am going to be producing a very detailed castle tutorial. It's coming very soon. I've shown you how to decorate some of the elements, but it's one you do not want to miss. So be sure to subscribe to the channel, or just keep an eye on it for when that tutorial is released. Happy baking, everyone. I really do hope I've helped you again today. There's going to be another one to follow with the Princess Castle door. I'm going to be doing in a slightly different way before the main big tutorial is actually released. Happy baking, everyone. Take care of yourselves, and I will be back soon.